Hi everyone, Paul here, welcome back to the channel. This is another Unreal Engine tutorial. This is the start of my Character Animation HowTo series, where I'll be covering various topics related to animation from the basics to the more advanced and break it down along the process. In this video, we're going to learn how to create a simple animation blueprint. We're going to look at some of the UE5 mannequin default animations to break it down, then grab some new asset character and basic animations from Mixamo, tweak them a little, and build our own animation blueprint. Let's go! So starting off with the third person template, let's just quickly play this. So we have here Quinn on an idle pose. You could control her movement. She would run forward and like also walk a little bit if you want to, and then jump. So all of these are animations, right? So if I jump into the character folder and mannequin under animations, under Manny or even Quinn, you would see these are the animations that they have, right? So we're gonna download something similar from the marketplace and then create an animation blueprint from those. So starting off with from Mixamo, go to Mixamo, sign up, it's free. Here you could download a bunch of animations and characters. So under characters here, I'm gonna choose this Remy character. There you go. So by default they're on T-pose, so you could go ahead and download that and grab the binary FBX. I'm gonna save this to my desktop and I'm gonna rename this as T-pose Remy. Cool. And then after you select the character that you want, you could click on find animation here, and we're gonna search for some few animations here, and let's just do them in one go. So I'm looking for this breathing idle. So download this, but this time select without skin, and the rest you could keep as is. Cool. And let's also do the walking. So here you can see this character is moving forward. We don't want this. It's going to cause some problems when you import this. So make sure it's in place. The reason for that is because all of the Mixamo animations doesn't have a root bone. So I'll talk about root bone in a future video. So download this, similar without skin, and also grab the running. So we'll just work with 3 animations for now. I'm gonna grab this one. Make sure you select in place and then click on download. Once downloaded, let's go ahead and import them. So to import, open up your content drawer. Let's organize the files here. So create a folder, call it main. Create 3 more folders. I'll call first one animations. Next folder is called materials. Next folder is called mesh. So under materials, we're going to drag and drop the T-pose. So this is where I save the file. So under the FBX here, under the T-pose Remy FBX, I'm just going to drag that. And I'm going to select all the defaults. So skeletal mesh and import mesh, those should be ticked. And what would happen is it would import all the materials for that mesh and also create those skeletal mesh. So we created this skeletal mesh, physics asset, and a skeleton. So I'm just going to move this to the mesh folder that we just created there. And I'm just going to quickly open the skeletal mesh here and look at the preview here. So here's what it looks like. This is the bone structure. You'd see it starts with the hip. There's no root. Again, future video. Cool. So now that we have that, we could now import some of the animations. So if I jump to the animations folder here, by the way, there's an error which is related to the smoothing, export smoothing, so you could ignore that. So here I'm gonna grab the breathing idle, the running, and the walking, drag it to my content browser. Oops, cancel that first. Cancel. So animations folder, grab those 3 and It's gonna ask you for a skeleton, so make sure you select the T-pose for the character you downloaded. So I'm gonna click on import, and that should import those 3 animations. So we're gonna close this and jump into the third person template here. So for the third person and the viewport, click on the mesh here, and for the skeletal mesh, select the T-pose Remy that we just created. You would see it's a little bit too big for this size, so scale. Some are perfect size, but this one's a little big, so I'm gonna put it 0.5, half the size, and that should be fit. And also I'm just gonna adjust this Z index for the location, because I know that the feet is kind of floating for this guy. When I hit play, now the character is on a T-pose and the feet are fully planted. Yep, and Quinn is replaced. But if you could still control the character, but the movement are no longer playing. Because if I jump here, it's using an anim class for ABP Quinn, which is not compatible. So you could swap that out. For example, use animation asset, and it's gonna ask you for some anim to play. So you could select the breathing idle, and it would start showing breathing idle there. And compile, then save, and it's breathing idle, but the animation doesn't transition. So if you do like this, it's still breathing idle. So there's no walking and running. So now we're gonna create our own animation blueprint. So if I jump here, go back to my animations folder here, I'm gonna right click, select animation, and select animation blueprint. I'm gonna select T-pose Remy, the skeleton that we created, and here I'm gonna say anim BP Remy. That will be our blueprint. So here I could grab actually the breathing idle here, put it on the output pose, compile, and if I jump to the third person here, switch it back to use animation blueprint. Now I can select that anim BP that we created. Now it's doing the same thing. Now it's idle. So we don't need idle. We need some sort of multiple animations here. So you could delete that and search for state machine. When you go for state machine, better to rename this. For me, I'm gonna call it locomotion. So all the jumping, the idle, and everything. So here, click from here and drag and add a state. This one, I'm gonna say idle to run. And from here, I could drag the breathing idle and the running and the walking, but I could only put one pose in here. So what we need to do is create a blend space. So let's create a blend space, go back to the content drawer, right click, select animation, and select legacy, and select 1D. So we're only gonna do horizontal here. So select the T-pose Remy again and say BS, say idle to run. Open that up, and here you will have that graph again. So now I could drag the breathing idle here on the first here, and it starts animating. And I could drag the walking here in the middle and the running at the end. Cool. So if I hit my command, I think control on Windows, you would see the character is now walking, and around 100 he's running. Cool. So because this is a horizontal axis, we want to name this to something. So we want to name this to speed. So basically the input here would be speed that would drive our character to animate. So right now, by default, this character movement, if I search for walk here, his max walk speed is 500. So you should match that with your blend space. So I'm going to set that to 500 and then adjust this. So adjust this at the end and this a walk in the middle. I'm going to save and finally go back to your animation blueprint, and now you have that on your asset browser, that animation. So you could drag that and put that as output pose. Now the variable that needs to change is the speed, so that the character would animate. So promote this as a variable, and then we're going to change this to the event graph. So if I jump to the event graph here, there's two nodes here. Basically this is like an event tick. So the try get owner, you could actually already get the velocity here, but what I'm seeing is you need to do cast to either third person or the character. So the animation blueprint for Manny is using cast to character, and from the as a character you're gonna get the character movement, which should be at the bottom here, and from here you could get the velocity, and you could get the length, vector length, and this would be the speed. So when your character is moving, set that speed. Let me zoom out here a little bit. Cool. And let's close this down a little bit. Zoom back in. So compile, save. Now we have the speed feeding into the blend space, and that should be our animation. So when I click on replay, still on T-pose. So I forgot to go back to here and change the locomotion to hook it up to the output pose. So compile, now you should see that there, then hit play. Now our character is idle, and when I hit forward, it's gonna start walking and then running. So you can see there's a little bit of what they call foot slide here. So the way to do this is you're gonna tweak the speed of your blend space to match it up with how your character is moving. But there's a better way. That is to use the analysis tool here. So within the blend space, there's the tool for analysis. So under analysis here, there's a horizontal axis function. Click on that and click on locomotion. And then from there, the axis that we want to track is the speed, and for it's going to ask for two bones here. Basically, this would be the foot. So the left foot and the right foot. When you click on this thingy, it's gonna analyze all the samples for you. So when you do that, you would see that if I don't play here, you would see that the timer has shifted here to 1000, suggesting that the running speed is 947. So if I jump to my character movement here and search for walk, I should set the max walk speed to also 947. So when I hit play here, it's gonna match that speed with the character. So you can see the character is kind of fast. Everything's kind of fast. So what I would do here is I'll go back to the actual running animation sequence here, and I could make this run a little bit slower. So from the rate scale here under animation, you could 0.8, change it to 0.8, and it's going to run a little bit slower. Compile that, go back to the blend space, and then do another analysis. When we do that, it's going to shorten that animation here. So now it's 757. So and set here to 750. So I believe this was 757. Let's do it 757 as well. 757, compile, then save again. Now this time it won't be that fast, but at least it's more bearable. So you can see our character is moving and there's no fit sliding as much. The only thing missing is the jump. So when the character jump, he's still walking. So we're gonna fix that. Cool. So let's jump back to Mixamo here. So if you search for jump, and for example this one, you would see that this is one whole animation for jumping. The one for the third person was split into 3, so we need to do the same. So here you could search for this particular animation. So there's the there's the jumping up. You could grab this jumping up here. Now I know there's a problem with this jumping up animation because, as I mentioned, there's no root bone here. if you just grab this animation and see he would squat and then jump, that's gonna cause a problem with your animation. So most of this jump has that animation. It would squat and then jump. So what I would do here is change the trim. So from the trim here, I'll put this down to 50. I just hit pause here. You would see the jump starts from a little bit of squat and then jumps in the air. So this is much better. So I'm gonna hit on download here. Without skin again, that's the jumping up animation. Next, we're gonna look for the falling idle. So grab that, without skin, save. Next, we're gonna, this one, falling to landing. So it's already selected there, so pick that, falling to landing, hit on download, without skin again. Cool. So let's go back to our content drawer here, and let's import those 3 new animations. So we have falling to idle, falling to landing, and jumping up. So drag that like that. Select the T-pose Remy bone, or whichever bone you character you selected. Import, and we should have those 3 animations there. So now we could go back into our animation blueprint here. Under here, the locomotion. So we have idle to run. From here, you could drag out another state. Say state. This would be jump. And from jump, we will have another state, which would be jump loop. And from jump loop, drag another state and select landing. And from landing, right, to continue, once you do the landing state, just hook that up back to the idle. Now we need to populate this, guys, with the animation. So if I jump into jump here, I'm gonna grab the jumping up and hook that up. And for the jump loop, I'm gonna grab the falling idle, hook that up. And what's special here for this falling idle is we want to loop the animation. So if you're taking longer to jump, you just want it to loop. So, and then for the landing, open that up and falling to landing, and wind that up. Now we want to fix the transitions here. So how would, from idle to run, how would it know? So there's this transition. So right now we don't have anything here. Jump to the event graph, and from here we're gonna grab the character movement and search for is falling. So when it's falling, promote this to a variable and call it is falling, and hook it up like so. I'll save, and then go back to your state here, and from here you could drag the is falling variable, and when it's true, it could transition to this state. And for the jump back to jump loop, from here you actually just need to set the jump animation to finish. You could put the automatic rule base here, just tick that. That means when the jumping up is finished, it will go on jump loop. And then from jump loop to the land, you would need a transition, which would be the is falling is not true. So just do not boolean and wire that up. And then for the transition from landing to idle to run, this could be automatic as well. So just enable the automatic rule base here. Hit play. And hopefully when we play this, we should see that animation. So idle, running, walking, jump. Now it's jumping, but it has this funny thing. So if you notice, we cut the animation for the jumping up, because if you didn't, he would be like mid-air and then jump. So this one, we need to tweak a little those animations. So to tweak those 3 animation, what I would do is I'll jump into this fall to landing. So this fall to landing, I want to speed this up. So I'm just gonna crank this up to 4, rate scale 4, and hit play here. And when he jumps, looks much better. Cool. So when it goes up and he just falls off, it's gonna do the jump animation. Cool. There you go. So that's how you would create an animation blueprint and use the animation from Mixamo to create this basic animation. So one thing to note though, there's no root bone. If you try to grab any of the animations here that has change of movement, that won't work. You would need some sort of bone or do a retargeting to make that work. So those are future videos you should watch for. That's it for this video. It's a bit long, I know, but this will cover all the basics. Thumbs up, thumbs down. If you have a question, hit the comment section below.